So this is a video I've been wanting to make for quite some time, talking about Chainsaw Man Part 2. And this isn't coming from my perspective, because I absolutely love Chainsaw Man Part 2. I don't really have any issues with it, but I do know that some people online have issues with Chainsaw Man Part 2 because of how different it feels. And I want to talk about exactly what those complaints are, at least from what I am aware of, that people have with Chainsaw Man Part 2. So if you guys have any thoughts of your own when it comes to how you personally feel about Chainsaw Man Part 2 that you want to let me know about, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. But without further ado, without wasting any more time, let's dive straight into this. So one concern I've noticed among fans is, of course, the pacing of Chainsaw Man Part 2. Because certain readers often describe Part 1 as a relentless sequence of action-packed moments, with arcs like the Gun Devil arc or the Bomb Girl arc delivering constant intensity. Denji's battles and escalating stakes kept the pages turning. However, many fans note that Part 2 adopts a slower, more deliberate pace, focusing heavy on Azamatika's internal struggles and her relationship with the War Devil, Yoru, who feels like a departure from the high-energy storytelling they loved. Fans express that this change makes the story feel less immediate. Arcs such as the Falling Devil build anticipation but don't always conclude with the dramatic impact expected, feeling that the narrative lingers on quieter moments without clear momentum. And this contrast to Part 1's brisk tempo has led some to find Part 2 less engaging. Other readers suggest this slower pace serves a purpose. Some highlight that Fujimoto is crafting a broader, more intricate story, with elements like the Death Devil prophecy laying groundwork for future payoffs. They argue that reading Part 2 in larger batches makes the pacing feel more cohesive, as character-driven moments culminate into something substantial. Still, for those accustomed to Part 1's rapid progression, the current approach feels too restrained. For these fans, the pacing shift creates a sense that Part 2 lacks the urgency that defined Chainsaw Man. While I appreciated Fujimoto's thoughtful exploration of new characters and themes, I can understand why some readers miss the fast-paced thrill of Part 1. Whether this slower narrative will eventually satisfy them depends on how the story unfolds, but it's a significant point of contention. Another issue some fans raise is Denji's character arc. In Part 1, Denji evolved from a desperate teenager to someone who confronted Makima and chose a simpler life with Nayuta, marking significant growth. Yet, readers point out that in Part 2, Denji often appears to revert to his earlier traits: impulsive, driven by basic desires, and easily swayed by others like Yoru, for example. For these fans, this feels like a step backward from the development they celebrated in Part 1. Many express disappointment that Denji's actions, such as being manipulated in ways reminiscent of Makima, suggest he hasn't learned from past experiences. Some describe this as a overemphasis on Denji's quirks at the expense of deeper growth, feeling his character lacks the forward momentum they expected. They hope to see a more mature Denji, building in Part 1's conclusion. Other fans offer a different perspective, suggesting that Denji's struggles reflect a realistic portrayal of lingering trauma. They highlight moments like this emotional turmoil in the Chainsaw Man Church arc as evidence that Fujimoto is exploring Denji's challenges in a world that continues to exploit him. They argue his behavior is a coping mechanism, not a regression, though his nuance doesn't satisfy everyone. For those who feel this way, Denji's arc makes Part 2 less compelling as they yearn for clearer signs of progress. I find Denji's complexity engaging, but I recognize why some fans are frustrated when his journey doesn't seem to advance as they hope. It's a divide that showcases differing expectations for his role in the story. The supporting cast is another area where some fans express dissatisfaction. Aki, Power, Makima, and Rize, whose distinctive personalities and emotional arcs left a lasting impact even in limited appearances. However, fans note that Part 2 supporting characters such as Yoshida, Fami, or members of the Chainsaw Man Church often feel underdeveloped or fail to resonate as strongly, leaving the story feeling less vibrant. Readers frequently compare the immediate connection they felt with Part 1's cast to the current roster. For instance, they point out that characters like the fake Chainsaw Man or Fami's allies appear briefly without leaving a mark. Some remark that Yoshida, despite his prolonged presence, remains enigmatic, lacking the depth of someone like Himeno, who moved readers in just a few chapters. This contrast makes the world of Part 2 feel less populated with compelling figures. Some fans counter that Fujimoto unintentionally focuses on Denji and Aza, keeping the supporting cast secondary to maintain a tight narrative. They highlight characters like Mayuta, who showed promise, or Fami's intriguing motives as signs of potential, yet others argue that the story feels confined, set in one city of characters who don't match Part 1's emotional weight, creating a sense of isolation. For these readers, the supporting cast lacks of impact diminishes Part 2's richness. While I enjoy the focus on Aza and Denji, I can see why fans miss the dynamic ensemble that made Part 1 so memorable. They're hoping for new characters or deeper development to recapture that same magic. The artwork is another point of contention for some fans. Part 1's visuals were celebrated for their raw, detailed style, with iconic panels like the Darkness Devil's astronaut scene or Denji's cosmic battles creating a cinematic experience. However, readers observe that Part 2's art appeals less refined, with sketchier lines and simpler backgrounds, particularly in action sequences, which they feel reduce the story's visual impact. Fans note that while Fujimoto's character expressions such as Aza's anxiety or Denji's anguish remain powerful, the overall presentation lacks the polish of Part 1. For example, the Falling Devil's arc battles don't carry the same visual weight as the Gun Devil's appearance, according to some discussions that I've noticed online. Some speculate that Fujimoto's workload may be affecting the art, especially since his standalone works like Look Back retain a high level of detail. Others argue that the art still suits Part 2's tone, with its looser style complementing the story's chaotic themes. They highlight standout moments like the Death Devil's reveal as proof of Fujimoto's skill. Yet, for those who valued Part 2's visuals, the preserved decline makes Part 2 feel less immersive, as if the story's ambition isn't fully reflected on the page. This concern highlights how much fans cherish Part 1's visual storytelling. I find the art effective for Part 2's narrative, but I understand why some readers feel the shift in quality affects their enjoyment. They're hoping for a return to the detailed style that made Part 1 stand out. Finally, some fans find the plot of Part 2 challenging to follow. Part 1 had a clear structure, with each arc building towards Denji's confrontation with Makima. In contrast, readers describe Part 2 as a tangle of concepts. Chainsaw Man Church, Death Devil Prophecy. They don't always connect, leaving them feeling disoriented by the lack of resolution. Many point to specific arcs like the Falling Devil, who promise significant developments but end up abruptly without clear outcomes. The introduction of multiple factions and devils can feel overwhelming, with fans expressing that the story jumps between ideas without providing enough clarity. This complexity contrasts to Part 1's more straightforward narrative, making Part 2 feel less cohesive to some. Other readers suggest that Fujimoto is crafting a long-term story, with the intricate plot serving a larger purpose. They propose that elements like Aza and Yoru's dynamic or Denji's struggles are building towards a major climax, and reading Part 2 in larger portions reveals a more unified vision. For these fans, the plot's complexity makes Part 2 harder to engage with than part 1's focused storytelling. I enjoy the ambitious narrative, but I can see why readers find it difficult to navigate. They're waiting for Fujimoto to tie these threads together to restore the clarity they loved in part 1. So those are my thoughts when it comes to the complaints that I've seen online surrounding Chainsaw Man Part 2. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I have no issues with Part 2 of Chainsaw Man. I'm actually enjoying it quite a lot when it comes to talking about the chapters and everything surrounding what's going on in Part 2. But I wanted to make this video because I had conversation with friends that had some issues with Part 2 and everything, and I wanted to look at it from a different perspective to see how other people feel about it online when it comes to the community. But now I want to leave the ball in your court, and I want to ask you, how do you feel about Part 2 of Chainsaw Man? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Is there anything you want to let me know surrounding Part 2 of Chainsaw Man? Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, as always, be sure to like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to follow me on my social media, be sure to check out my X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. All the links to those are located in the description below, so be sure to follow me on there. Also, if you guys are interested in joining my community, be sure to do so. The link to my Discord server is in the description and is also pinned in the comment section down below. Be sure to click on that bell for notifications. You guys are notified whenever I drop a new video on the channel. I hope all you guys are having a fantastic day, wherever the day may be, if it's the daytime, the nighttime, or the evening. And I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, peace out.